this situation was totally avoidable. Let's talk about it. How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about the mother of Brendan Dapper speaking out to the mainstream media on the incident involving her adoptive son that happened earlier this year, where he attacked a teacher at a Florida high school. Now, in case you don't know what I'm talking about or you have forgotten, let's go to the screen to explain. Now, you see Brendan Dapper on the left. He's now 18 years old. Earlier this year, he was 17 years old, and he attacked his teacher, Joan Nadich, after she restricted or took away his Nintendo Switch handheld video game system. Now, he wound up breaking 4 or 5 of her ribs. He contributed to hearing loss, and she says that she also has cognitive function problems after this attack. Now, Miss Nadich wants the young man to spend 30 years in the penitentiary as a result of this, and she's not trying to help him get anything less than that. And the mother is like, well, wait a minute. I understand my son did what he did, and I'm sorry, but he has autism, and he has a history of behavioral problems, and I did not want him to be in that school anyway. Now, before we go any further, let's go ahead and get into the actual interview. If you want to see the interview in full, link, as always, will be in the description. If you want to see the attack, which I cannot play on YouTube, obviously, I will link to that in the box as well. If you're on IG, visit the link in the bio, go to the corresponding article on the website. But without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
So much for being on with me. As a mom, I'm just sort of curious how you're processing all of what's happened.
It's devastating. That my heart is breaking. I'm terrified for my child. I feel like if he gets sentenced to prison, it's a death sentence for him.
And just to be clear, the young man is in jail right now. He's in the county jail, and he could get sentenced to actual prison.
He's scared. And to have your child call and cry and say, I don't want to die. It's awful.
So can I ask, was his autism, was that ever brought in the litigation of his case and in the plea deal, especially as pertains to the sentencing? Because 30 years in adult prison is a very long time, especially for a 17-year-old kid.
I want to interject right here. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. I got to interject. 30 years is ridiculous. First of all, he was 17 years old. We're talking about an assault. The person is not in the wheelchair. They're not deceased or anything like that. I know guys that have actual prison records who come home, commit more crime. I'm talking about having a gun, all kind of stuff that don't get anywhere near 30 years in the joint. So that's extreme. Should he be punished? Absolutely. Absolutely. He should go to a mental institution. Do they have those anymore? I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's keep on going.
Yeah. He was direct filed. Originally, he was charged as a juvenile, and 2 days later, he was direct filed. And no, that was not considered. In Florida, my understanding is that a charge of autism, autism is not a defense, and that it can't even be considered until the sentencing phase.
There are a few things I think that, the audience should know about your son. Autism isn't the only disability that he's living with. There's a host of special needs that your son was coping with and that the school was supposed to be accommodating for. Let me just go over some of it. There's, of course, the severe autism, and then there's ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, something called oppositional defiance disorder, which is, as it sounds, it makes a child extremely defiant and oppositional to even getting breakfast can be a battle. Reactive explosive disorder, that's another condition that your son is coping with. With all of that list, why did the school even allow a Nintendo Switch to be part of any aspect of his day?
And you know what? Okay, so all of that right there is documented. Some may say these are BS excuses or whatever. the overall point is his behavior, how he is, was known before this whole thing played out. So at a certain point, it's like, okay, why was he not in a different situation? Just to put him in regular school like that at 6'6", 300 something pounds? It's just dangerous. It's a ticking time bomb. And we're going to get to that in a minute. We're going to get to why he was even there. He shouldn't have been. We're going to get to why he was there in a minute.
Yeah, that's something I ask every day, and I don't understand why. That in his IEP, it was stated that in the intensive behavior group home that he was living in, if they ever had to remove it as a consequence, they called in the crisis team. And the original IEP called for a token economy for so he could, to motivate him to do his work. He could earn tokens to then go to like a snack closet. This year, he had a new teacher who, it's not Joan. Joan was not his teacher. She's the para. He had a new teacher who, it was her first year teaching. And I don't know if she didn't understand the IEP, if she didn't read it, but she approached the group home and asked the group home to send it in.
Listen, for anybody who watches that video, it's hard for them to get past it, and I can understand they'd be devastated for Joe Nadich.
The video does look bad. I mean, the video looks terrible. But again, we're talking about 4 or 5 broken ribs, hearing loss, and then the woman who was beating Joe Nadich, she says that she has cognitive function problems after the attack. That is the actual result of the beating.
The victim in this attack, and I can imagine you feel devastated for her as well. You wouldn't have wanted this to happen. You're obviously torn between the suffering that she's going through, and then of course the son that you love. It's just odd that he was in, this kind of public schooling to begin with. Do you know why this was the situation? Why he was actually even in a typical school like this, if he had this list of conditions he was coping with?
When he originally was in an autism behavioral hospital back before COVID hit, right before COVID hit, and we went through a process to where we were not able to reunify with him and bring him back home because of the limitations of seeing him in that year due to COVID. And so he was placed in an intensive behavioral group home, and I questioned it at the beginning. I had always homeschooled him because he didn't handle the school environment. I asked the group home, did he have to go to public school? Could he not do school online? And I was assured by them that all of their clients went to public school. So even though he was a level 6, and I never thought he belonged in public school, I didn't have a choice.
Thank you for watching.
So that's what's going on. Shout out to Newsmax for the clip. So she says it right there. They say, oh, no, I'll be okay. We send him to public school, also where all our clients go. But she knows her son. She knows that he doesn't do well in these environments. And there was documentation saying, hey, if there's ever any kind of problem, you got to do this and you got to do that. These steps weren't followed. She says, hey, you shouldn't put him in public school. That might not be the best place. And they put him right there. So there were all kind of balls that were dropped in the situation. And then now it led up to somebody being attacked. And the young man is facing 30 years in the penitentiary. And like I said, he shouldn't get that much time in prison or a mental health place. Maybe 5-10 years in a mental health institution, something like that. That'd be more appropriate for a 17-year-old who already had mental problems for an assault. Because that's what this is. Again, I know guys that don't have any mental problems who will actually have criminal records, shoot people with guns, and don't get anywhere near 30 years. So we got to put it in perspective. When you're talking about assault and crime like that against people, what is the actual punishment? What do others get in a similar situation? That's what you got to ask yourself. And to get back to the whole thing about mental institutions and things of this nature, when I was a youngin', as I close, when I was a youngin' and I was in school, we had a certain word that we would use to describe mentally disabled kids. It started with an R and ended with a ED. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Now we can't even say that word. That word is offensive. It's like saying the N word. It's a curse word. But back then, if a person who was under that R word, which really cover a wide range of disabilities, it could be cerebral palsy or autism or anything like that, Down syndrome. Anybody under that umbrella who would act up, you just say, okay, well, they're in that little class, little short bus, and that's what they do. You just understood that they had mental challenges, but now it's like the word mental illness means nothing. You can't even really identify somebody as being truly mentally ill because everybody has mental illness. You see? So you could say, well, I don't know what I want to be today. I don't know what I want to identify as today. Now I'm mentally ill. So then when someone comes with the mentally ill argument, it's fatigue. Nobody wants to hear it. And people that have actual problems don't get the help that they need, in my humble opinion. And when they do things like this, rather than sending them to a mental place where they should be, they get put in the regular penitentiary, and you leaving the prison guards to deal with these crazy people when they should not be dealing with them. They should be in a place that's better suited for that, not the penitentiary. Because all they're going to be is a problem for the prison staff who are not really equipped to deal with it. But as I close, I want to say this. Should it be a punishment here? Yes, absolutely. Prison time, 30 years? No. I mean, come on. Nah, guys who are not mentally disabled, who commit worse crimes than this, I'm talking about deleting people, got guns, knives, all kind of stuff, don't get this much time. In order for you to get 30 years in the joint, man, you got to be like a mass shooter or something like that at this particular point. That's the kind of level you got to be on. So let's just put things in perspective. Let's not get too emotional. Let's understand what happens. It's an assault. Should be punished. He has a prior criminal record of assault as a juvenile. That's got to be put into consideration. So understand that and give him the appropriate time in the appropriate place rather than just throw him away in prison. That's probably not the best way to go about it. But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? What's your solution here? Should he get prison time, 30 years? Should he be in a mental health facility? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys know where I'm at. Put him in a mental institution. I'm not sure if we have those anymore, but we need to bring them back. That's the problem right now. Places like California, they close the mental places and put all those people on the streets right next to the drug addicts and everybody else. And you got chaos happening as a result. And a lot of those people who were in the mental health places now become drug addicts, and the problem has become exponentially worse. I think we need to go back to a time where we had these kind of facilities for a better society, because the young man's clearly dangerous. It can't really be out in society with everybody else. I mean, you're 6'6", 300 pounds, nothing but rage, not trying to listen. What do you do? What can you really do? Prison, mental health place, either one of those, but definitely the mental place, but not out in the street just roaming. That's not really what should happen. There should be punishment, but let it be the appropriate punishment. Whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.